You're listening to the Bob and Bo Show. Here are your hosts, Ty Bob and Ty Bo. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Ty Bob. You can follow me on Twitter at Ty Bob _. Man, I'm gonna butcher that every week. I'm awful.
It's in your head now.
We've got Tybo below us. Make sure to follow him and the show at Bob in Bo Show. And don't forget Sean over to my left. You can follow him at Sheen 1440. Yes, sir. I can get everybody else's. I just can't get my own. It is weird. Man, what a wild ride, aka Russell Wilson, that we had over week one. It absolutely wild. Before we get too much into it, there are quite a few injuries that will be impacting fantasy football, but teams for the rest of the season potentially. We obviously
had sad stuff that we don't want to talk about, but we have to talk about.
So we're gonna get it out of the way so we don't bore you with the sad stuff. Put the sad dogs need help Sarah McLachlan song on, and we'll go through these very quickly.
We could pitch a really cool commercial to the NFL, like the guys that are injured with that song, just like their pictures fading and their name with what they got injured with.
How many weeks they're out for?
25 cents a day, and you can help cover those players' insurance injury costs because the NFL sure as hell won't.
Oh my God, dude, the field conditions that are causing some of these injuries, like who's responsible? Like, come on now.
Billion-dollar businesses can't keep their own operational businesses in operation. It's absolutely wild. But we'll start off with a few of these. We've got Elijah Mitchell for the 49ers running back. This one hurts the most for Tybo and I, as we have him on our fantasy teams. I made a trade for him that I should have made for. So that's wonderful. He goes on the IR. They're expecting about 8 weeks, and then he'll come off the IR and be able to play.
But what's her face from ESPN or the fantasy football stuff, Stefania, was saying like 49ers, and I mean, making a lot of good points. They have a history of bringing people back too early, and then they're out for longer after that. So I hope that doesn't happen to him, because he's one of 3 running backs that I drafted. So
well, you also never want to see players. That's one thing.
Yeah,
it does suck. But you don't want to, especially because he's in my dynasty league. His long-term health is more important than just this season.
Right.
We've also got TJ Watt, who has a suspected torn pectoral muscle, could be out for the season. As Tybo was talking about with me earlier, they could potentially be bringing him back. Honestly, I wouldn't expect it, depending on how bad the tear is and how much surgery is needed. But it was not pretty.
I think there was some breaking news there recently that he was not going to go for surgery and just be out for the 6 weeks.
6 weeks?
Awful decision.
Oh, my God.
Awful decision.
Because I guess the other opinions, like it's a partial tear, and man,
it's either surgery and he's out, or 6 weeks no surgery.
Tearing a muscle is much like in the same position. Like, this is probably much in the same position as Kevin Durant was in at Golden State before fully tearing his Achilles. A lot of times these muscles or tendons cannot be repaired by just a minor surgery, and they have to be you have to wait until they're fully torn to be able to do something about it. So you try and heal it as much as possible, and then you do the cleanup in the off season as best you can. There was also Jamal Adams, who is out for the season. I believe it was a knee injury. Was it ACL?
It's a quad. It's a serious quad injury.
Wonderful. You've got Dak, who's going on the injury reserve with a hand injury. I believe it's his throwing thumb. The Dallas Cowboys have apparently made calls to Cam Newton, because that's certainly going to fix your dysfunctional franchise.
I would love to see that. I'm a big Cam fan.
Yeah, I'd love to see it too.
Let him work with 2 running backs. This option.
So three. So now you have 3 running backs in the backfield and nobody who can throw the ball. Wonderful. That's exactly what you want.
Navy pulls it off.
I think Tybo's got the rest of the injury report.
Najee went down over something that I feel like the NFL should look at when guys are going down and they're getting pulled, they're getting pulled back and rolled over their ankles and stuff. He had a foot injury off a tackle like that, but he says he's good to go. but important to point out because he did have some stuff in the off season, and he's one of the guys that I consider to be top 3, top 5 running back in fantasy, at least for his prospects. So something to look at. Keenan Allen might not play Thursday. He's got a hamstring injury.
I believe he's been ruled out.
No ill will on anybody, but I'm gonna cross my fingers that it stays that way because he tears us up. Derek Barnett for the Eagles, integral piece of their defensive line for sure. Replacing him is not going to be easy, but I forget how long he's out for.
He's just on the IR, so realistically, he could be back in 4 to 8.
Right, and then another guy that's going on the IR for us, obviously McDuffie. Unfortunately, field conditions. Andy Reid was talking about might have contributed to this hamstring injury, so that's unfortunate. And he's out for a while for sure. And then Alvin Kamara for the Saints. He's got a rib injury apparently from the win. He only had 9 attempts before he got injured. T. Higgins also injured, but he got a concussion in the first half after only getting 2 yards. So he's going through concussion protocol. Hopefully he gets back all right.
Some big injuries for week 1 that honestly, it is much better than it has been in the last couple previous years with the pandemic going on and no preseason and little work way back into full rigorous motion. So we are being able to see like preseason is helping guys get ready for the rigorous 18 weeks that is beholden, but you never want to see big names go down. You never want to see any names go down, but most specifically, you never want to go see the stars go down because that hurts the product as a whole. To get away from the sad Sarah McLachlan music that will not be playing in the background because I don't want to get copywritten up, we do have our games of the week. We each picked one game that we wanted to focus on for this week individually. And I believe Sean has our first game of the week.
Yeah, it was Minnesota versus Green Bay in Minnesota. Very excited to see what's going to happen. Aaron Rodgers without Devontae Adams. Kirk Cousins with a quarterback or with a coach that actually wants the quarterback to throw instead of just run the ball and play defense. What more could you want with that? Justin Jefferson. Can we just go ahead and say he is what? Top 2, not 2?
Easily.
He is a phenomenal beast. Glad I drafted him in fantasy. He's going to have a great year for me. Give me 40 fantasy points right there. One sad thing that we're not going to talk about is how Devontae Adams had more receiving yards in total than all of the Green Bay Packers receivers. That is not a good sign for Aaron Rodgers for this year.
He was already calling him out before the season started. He's not happy.
He's not happy with his rookie. He's not happy with his rookie, Watson. 50-yard bomb dropped. Walk-in touchdown. Can't be having that. Can't be having that. But, I mean, Vikings look pretty good. You can't let Kirk Cousins cook because he can't cook worth a shit. But do let him pass a little bit more.
Maybe give it to Cook.
Let him run a little bit, but you need to be force feed Justin Jefferson in that offense over and over again. Actually go for it a little bit more than play conservative.
I'd like to see Jalen Reagor get more involved.
Give it time.
Was that all you had for your game of the week?
That's all I have for right now. Yeah.
Okay, I like it. Mine was obviously Cleveland going into Carolina, taking on the Panthers and Baker Mayfield. Cleveland walks out the winner 26-24.
Yeah, the better team won. There's nothing else to say.
Not really. Not really. There are a couple takeaways from this game. Number one, the Browns did not utilize their passing weapons. Obviously, they have Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. That team will be very scary when Deshaun comes in, barring Rust for not playing for a year and a half plus ish. That team can be very scary. even with just Kareem and Nick Chubb, that offense can still move the ball. Defensively, they're always going to be scary. You got Delpit getting
So I was right. I was right.
You were right.
I was.
You were. Look at you. Look at you. Myles Garrett was in the backfield all day, and that kind of leads to the next thing is like Baker Mayfield was tied for the third lowest amount of time to throw by all quarterbacks. The third lowest by 2.51 seconds. There are only two quarterbacks below him, tied at 2.4 and 2.41. 2.4, and then Tom Brady at 2.5, and then Baker was tied at 2.51 for time to throw. So not very good. Surprisingly, the quarterback with the most amount of time to throw was Justin Fields with 3.27 seconds. Pretty wild for how bad their offensive line is. Suck at 49ers. A lot of room to improve for both of those teams. Defensively, Tybo talked about how last year the Panthers defense was the best part of their game, and clearly it was the worst part of their game on Sunday. McCaffrey wasn't really involved. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how either team plays out. But given the fact that Deshaun comes back in, if they continue to play the way that they're playing, they could potentially have a shot at the playoffs by the time Deshaun comes back. And Carolina, they could be without a head coach and an entire offense come next season. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead and go with by far the best game of the week. 38-35, probably the most competitive game of the week. I know there was a lot of stuff that came down to the wire with field goals. The Steelers and Bengals went into overtime, but two good teams going at it. 35-38, high scoring affair. It was a great game. Both run games looked really good. DeAndre Swift, I'm trying to trade for him in fantasy. He looked really good. Both offensive lines looked pretty good. And Jalen Hurts' day was kind of like sneaky good. Like he didn't put up a whole lot through the air, but he added 90 yards on the ground. Both defenses made plays at certain times, like at different points of the game. They kind of looked good, but 38 and 35 points were scored. But AJ Brown on a new look team looks pretty good. He's also
really good.
Devontae Smith without a catch. He had one target or two targets, very, very low. Devontae Smith without a catch. Interesting, but just another weapon that's kind of locked away on that Eagles team. If they ever decide to, open it up, they have options. So look for the Lions to, be okay after this loss. They looked pretty good, except for, a couple of moments there, a couple of stretches on defense. They're going to be competitive.
They had a few moments of coaching brought up from last year. They were coaching like last year's Lions. They're not coaching for this year. They're a completely different team. They're ready to go. They're going to play a little bit better than last year.
HCDC is that dude.
And look for the Eagles to win their division.
Shocker. Now that Dak's
wow.
Shocker.
Hot take.
Big hot take there, Tybo. We did have a pick'em, and we're going to make it a thing this year that we go over how we do each week, just roughly or very quickly. Now, we did have one game that didn't get picked. It was the first game of the season.
Can we just give each of us one win for that game?
No, that's not how that works. That goes down as a tie. It goes down as a tie.
Oh, man.
Goes down as a tie. Now, there was a second tie because the AFC South sucks everything. They're awful. It's the worst division in football history. It's so bad. The Sun Belt is better. The Sun Belt could come in and get wins against the AFC South. It's awful. It's so bad.
The Chiefs have more wins than an entire division. We're going to see how long we can keep it up.
It'd be lovely. It would be lovely. Tybo rounded out the week with the least amount of wins.
Let's go.
Yeah.
6 wins, 8 losses, 2 ties. Beautifully done, Tybo. Sean
I had
rounds
2
up.
ties. Oh,
Well, we
never
all
mind.
had 2
I'm
ties
sorry.
because
I'm sorry.
oh
I
my,
forgot.
this guy, we all have 2 ties. We have a wash, and because there was a tie,
I
we
get it.
have to count it as a tie.
I get
All
it.
right, there we go. Gosh, it's like I got to read off the rules and regulations.
Shut
of sweepstakes. Shawnee boy comes in second with 7 wins, 7 losses, straight 500. It's a good
go.
week. It's a good
0-0
week
next week.
when you're talking about pick'em. And he came in also with 2 ties. And I, Ty Bob, round out your week 1 winners. 8 wins, 6 losses, 2 ties. Yeah, I did it again.
It's
The
up in
names are
the air.
hard.
It's week 1. I'm gonna shock you guys next week. Okay.
You're gonna make me read out the sweepstakes rules and regulations again?
No, I'm not.
I have a bold take for Tybo. He's going to stay below 500 the whole entire year.
No, you're gonna
Yo.
stay at 500 the whole year.
Yo.
Anyways, on to the highlights.
On to the highlight. That was our pick'em. That fairly good week for week 1. Week 1's usually it's like week 1 of college football. You have no idea what's going on, and you really shouldn't bet during week 1 of college football. You can get away with it for the NFL. But we are on to the highlights, and I would like to touch on a comment that I made.
It's more like lowlights.
Well, some
just takeaways from the week.
Highlights.
Most of them are lowlights.
That's fair. More like funny moments.
Sure.
The AFC South that I had mentioned are big time chokers. We'd mentioned that the Chiefs have more wins than an entire division. I think almost half of the NFL has more wins than an entire division. All 4 of those teams come away with either a loss or a tie, as 2 teams come away with a loss and 2 of the teams played each other. So an entire division has no wins. It's absolutely god awful, and we need to change the formatting of the playoffs to not allow stinky garbage poo-poo teams into the playoffs that don't belong to be there.
I also just don't like the idea of a tie. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So I don't like ties. We shouldn't, like, if we get to the end of whatever this sudden death bullcrap OT that they have, like, let's implement maybe some college regulation, maybe make them start at the 45, like make the kickers do a kick. I don't care. Just do something. This is the
Somebody's
NFL.
gotta
We don't
win.
need end in ties. Like, no, the college doesn't end in ties. Pee Wee doesn't end in ties. You get paid. You're multi-billion-dollar organization. Like, let's figure this one out.
Let's do like a trick skill competition. Trick throws. Pat's gonna win.
Yeah, we don't need 13 seconds anymore. Pat's just gonna beat Josh.
We're gonna manage the game so that we tie everybody, and it's gonna come down to who can make the craziest fucking pass.
Pat's just gonna throw it out of the stadium every single time. We also had the Falcons, who choked again. Shocker. They led. They were 5.5-point underdogs. They led for, I believe, a majority of that game, and then ended up pissing it away as they usually do. So don't expect anything more from the Falcons than has been there in the last few years.
They earned themselves a graphic on Twitter. There was a picture posted of like 6 different games where they were up in the 3rd and 4th quarter that leads that they just blew.
It hasn't stopped since the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It hasn't stopped.
But I guess the highlight and low light that I would like to talk about is Geno Smith, baby. I don't think he did anything.
Broncos should have traded for him.
I don't think he did anything too crazy.
They wrote me off and I didn't write back.
He did not write back. But oh my God, we got to talk about it. Because I don't really think Geno won that game. The Denver Broncos, first-year coaches, first-year quarterback, were god awful. The Broncos pissed that game away. They fumbled the ball twice in the red zone.
On the 1-yard line.
On the 1-yard
twice.
line. I'm kind of happy that everybody was hyping them up before the season because they couldn't handle the pressure. Peyton Manning was everybody and their mother in America doing this with a minute left, and you've got 3 timeouts. Like, what are you doing? It's a straight up coaching gaffe. Like, Andy Reid is kind of known for mismanaging the clock at the end of games sometimes, but it's never been this bad. That was embarrassing. Monday Night Football isn't what it was, but it's a primetime game. That was embarrassing, and I'm so happy that it happened to the Broncos.
The worst part about all of that is after they missed the field goal, he called the timeouts
Dude,
after they missed. What
you
was the
have
point of that?
You have 3 timeouts. There's a minute left. It's 4th and 5. Cook up your best play with Russell Wilson. Get that 5 yards. Make that field goal easier because Brandon McManus did come on Twitter and say they had to get it to the 46-yard line. They got
left
it there.
hash.
But like that's a 64-yard field goal, dog. There's a much easier field goal if you get, it to even in the 50s, man. Like a 50-yarder is more of a lock than a 64-yard field goal.
Hackett did come back in his presser today. He did in his presser after the game. He asked the reporters to allow him to sleep on it to determine what he will do, what he should have done. So if you're a head coach, apparently you have to sleep on it now. Like let's figure this out. So he came back and in his in a presser today after practice, I believe it was, he talked about or he had stated that he should have gone for it. So he went back.
That's in hindsight over here.
That's one of the things. Like you don't do that as a head coach. You don't come back and you say I made the right decision for that time. You stick with it and like, hey, we'll evaluate for how we move better next time. Like don't come back and start second guessing yourself because you start doing that in hindsight, you're going to start doing that while the game is on the line. And that's not going to end up good for anybody, most specifically a first-year head coach with a guy who they're paying $250 million to, who's going to be there until he's 40, who's been regressing and is going to continue to try and win. And that's just not something that's good for a first-time head coach.
And that's how you lose the locker room there too.
100%.
You have that much time left and that's how you end it.
And, also think about if all the eyes in the media weren't already on them for one of the biggest names, being traded to them in the offseason, now it's going to be even harder for you. Like everybody's talking about you. Like, can y'all handle the pressure? It's what it's going to come down to because week 1, they couldn't. They were in a hostile environment. That stadium is pretty much, they didn't break 100 on the decimal meter, but it gets pretty loud. It's no Arrowhead, but it gets loud.
I like the Steelers Bengals game. That was a tremendous game to watch for a few reasons. Bengals came out flat. Joe Burrow had 5 turnovers.
Proved you right.
Love to see that. But honestly, it never should have been this close. The Steelers really choked that away. Bengals, their
defense,
the very end.
Their defense kept them in the game.
Yeah, which is good for them, but their offense really screwed them over. It's not going to last for them the whole entire year. But
how long do you think till Pickett's in?
Week 6.
Oh, yeah.
Week 6.
Week 6. I've been saying six for all the offseason. And the reason for it, if it wasn't for Mike Tomlin, Tybo, I would be 100% with you right there that Kenny Pickett comes in earlier. The thing is Tomlin likes his veterans, and he has shown that he will ride with them. He rode with Ben Roethlisberger when he never should have. It doesn't matter if Kyle Rudolph was better or is like a little bit better of an option. He just rode with him, and he likes his veterans. I don't think Pickett comes in until at least week 6.
I feel like I truly underestimated their defense. Their defense is good. It's sad. It's sad that TJ Watt's going to be out for a while, but their defense is good.
Talking about their defense, did you guys see when Jamar Chase gave the double bird to Minka Fitz?
I missed that.
Oh, so
did he really just do this?
It was early in the game, and Jamar walked up to Minka, gave him 2 birds, and then walked away. Minka then ended up with 14 total tackles, an interception, 4 pick six, and a blocked kick.
Yeah, he went off
to save the game.
How ridiculous is that? Yeah, it was to save the game. That's so wild. Like, why would you ever do that?
Now, did he do that before or after he got the pick six?
believe it was
It
towards the
was,
beginning of the
you said
game.
it was the first, yeah.
Because the pick six was the first drive for the Bengals.
Right? I don't know if it was
No.
after or before. I think that was drive 3
Okay,
that pick six happened, but it was
never
towards
mind.
the beginning of the game. I don't know exactly when it happened, but he did walk up and just give two double. He just gave him the double bird.
I
Have
mean,
some
Jamar
class, my friend.
have some class, but he almost pulled that game out of his ass for the
Yeah,
Bengals
he did.
with all of
Yeah,
his
he did.
catches.
So is Joe Burrow overrated? Obviously, his offensive line, whatever they did for that, to like give him any sort of help, clearly didn't work. I don't know where the money is going. If this is some sort of Ponzi scheme, his offensive line is still ass.
Lael Collins.
Lael Collins, but
uh,
like,
he's
is
already
he
played with
overrated?
a bad offensive line. I don't think he's overrated. But he he might figure it out to like keep the Bengals in the playoffs. Like I don't think he's like too far overrated.
I'm going to say what most media members say about Patrick now. The league has figured him out. That's all it is.
Well, I guess here's a I guess a little bit better way of wording this question. Is he showing who he truly is, or is this a product of players not playing in the preseason?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. Granted, Joe Burrow is out with an appendectomy, so it's a little bit different story instead of just straight sitting out like some other players. But Joe Burrow is known to throw many interceptions over the past few years, so it he is that, but he is also be able to come back and have a chance for these Bengals to be in these games too.
Yeah,
uh,
because
they need to figure out just a better blocking scheme or something because that you start there, and you're going to take away at least half of those interceptions that were thrown, in my opinion.
yeah, 'cause, one of the things that we talked about in pre-show was players in preseason not playing in their performance in week one. Obviously, 90% of the Rams team did not play during the preseason, and that really showed. You had Kyler calling plays on the sideline during preseason, taking a little bit of snaps, but nothing really. You had Aaron Rodgers, now Joey B. I mean, the list goes on.
Russ didn't play in the preseason.
Russ didn't play in the preseason. There are the list goes on, and obviously we know it's a copycat league, so people are trying to do what the Rams did last year: rest your players in the preseason, play them for the full 18, and you'll be okay. Obviously, a lot of these guys are going to get it figured out, but how long? Like, how long do we have to wait for that? And do you think that the Super Bowl winner, whoever it may be, will be a team that did not rest during the preseason, and the league copycats again?
Well, because we're going to win the Super Bowl, it's going to be a team that did get their players some snaps in the preseason and were prepared for Week One, and not digging themselves even if it's just an 0-1 hole. There's no hole to dig yourself out of right at the beginning of the season. Um, notoriously the Patriots, could go 0-2 and still make it to the Super Bowl, but
Stop it. You're gonna hold on to that pipe dream until the cows come home.
it's not a pipe dream. I hate the Patriots, but
Sean, I think you had something on Devontae.
Yeah, Devonte Adams, he absolutely killed the Chargers. Uh, I forgot who was guarding him. Tybo, Asante Samuel.
I'm pretty sure it was Asante Samuel.
He turned him around
It
all
was the
which way.
best route of Week One by far.
Yeah, made Asante Samuel look like he was going into a different coverage completely. Just lost him right there.
I think that might have been what he tried to do, just go cover somebody else because, like, man, I can't hang with this dude.
Yeah, but for his stats, he had 10 catches for 141 yards and 1 touchdown.
While Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller were completely ignored.
Yeah.
Also, contrary to Sean's fantasy football player to watch for Week One, where was Sammy Watkins, Sean?
We're getting there.
Where was Sammy Watkins?
Well, let's just get into it. Fantasy football players. this was bound to happen for Sammy Watkins. Did not think it was going to actually happen right now this week, but
I
he
mean,
only
it's a
had.
gutsy call. It's not based on a
I
whole lot of
respect
logic,
it.
but
I
like
respect it.
I mean, for the past 3 years, he's gone off.
it's more on like superstition.
Yeah. Anyways, he had 3 targets for 3 catches with 18 yards. So he really did not warrant you to
Bust.
ever look at him.
If
Fade
he
me,
was your fantasy player to watch for the week,
fade him
bust.
completely. Yeah.
If you played him because Sean told you to, I need you to go on the show's Twitter and
And
Sean's
flame
Twitter
him.
at Bob and Bo Show at Sheen1440 and just absolutely obliterate that man.
So
All right.
you're digging yourself out of the hole for the rest of the season. Okay, you better have a
Yeah.
better next week. You know, when we
Next
record
week I'll
next
get
week,
there.
better football player to watch.
But
Fantasy
the other
football
player to watch
watch.
that obviously we didn't get really to talk about last time was Isaiah McKenzie. 2 catches on 3 targets for 19 yards and a touchdown. Not the best for targets or yardage, but he's getting targeted in the red zone. So at least you have that to look forward to.
I guess he's involved.
He's a dynasty pickup. He's a dynasty
Yeah.
watch. I like that.
It's a long season.
There was one more thing I wanted to touch on for highlights or a funny moment. I don't know if you guys had anything else. To go along with the Steelers Bengals game, there was a lady at the Bengals game who was blitzed out of her mind, completely
This
drunk,
is so messed up.
and to the point where she's vomiting, and not just a little bit, but profusely and projectile straight into her lap. That goes and it's so much that it goes underneath of her feet and into the row in front of her, underneath the seat of the person who's in front of her. And in this seat that is in front of this lady who is vomiting all over the seat in front of her is a child in a neck brace.
Just disrespectful.
And it's one Bengals fan to another Bengals fan. It's not a Bengals fan to a Steeler or a Steelers fan to a Bengals fan. It's two Bengals fan. One of them is a child in a neck brace and just now getting puked on. And nobody stops it. Like this video goes on for a solid 30, 40 seconds. And like the parent of this child is sitting next to the child, just looking behind him and giggling with a shit-eating grin. Like, what is happening? Not moving the child in a neck brace.
Oh my God.
Nobody's clearing out. Nobody's doing anything while this lady just looks at the camera, pukes, and then looks back at the camera and then pukes. And like,
did this get caught on live TV or something? Like,
no, it's somebody who was in the
okay.
So this lady was and the child were both sitting right by the stairs as you walk down and up. So they were right on an aisle seat, and somebody in the aisle over was able to record this going on. Disgusting, but hilarious.
You need to go find it and retweet it on the show so I can watch
somebody
it.
Please find that for me.
Easily. I can do that. It's in my likes. I can do that. Did you boys have anything else that you wanted to cover from this wild week one that was turbulent, filled with injuries, and hopefully a week two is a little bit better?
I had 2 things that I saw. Colts are the same. That they are who we thought they are. Same as the Patriots. They are who we thought they were. They're going to be like that. And second thing was the weirdest thing I saw was the Bears got a penalty for trying to soak up water on a water-covered field before they kicked a field goal. Made absolutely no sense why they were trying to do that. Everything was still soaked, but that's the Bears.
Well, so they were trying to dry off the kicking spot. Too much water would have held down the ball, but the flag was for I think it was for they called it excessive towel use or something, which I don't know, excessive toweling or something like that. It just goes back to like you cannot. Which this is on the Bears because you've got to build a better facility or have a runoff or something. You cannot use outside objects during the game to repair or make adjustments to the field.
It sucks because like they were playing on a lake, man. Like,
yeah,
it was awful.
It's most likely the reason that Elijah Mitchell got hurt. Like
100%.
Speaking of well, Saquon didn't get hurt, but he's back. I'm so happy to see that he's back. Like,
yeah.
I'm hope he doesn't have anything happen to him like he's had in the past, but 194 yards? Dude looked insane. And I apologize for giving you shit, Tyler, for picking the New York Giants in the pick'em last week.
Only one.
Maybe Tennessee is trash. Maybe they go from worst to or best to last. Oh my God, best to worst in their division. Yeah, first to worst.
There you go.
Goodness gracious.
I'll leave it on this if you guys don't have anything else, because Sean, you were talking about the Patriots. I want to leave here with a hot take, just like I did in our Chiefs post game show. If you haven't listened to it, go and check it out on all platforms and YouTube. My hot take for Mac Jones: he's the next Matt Moore.
I don't. Oh.
He's the next Matt Moore. He'll play for 4 years. He'll be a backup for the rest of his career. May end up as a coach in a high school, not really do anything.
Didn't he play for us?
Matt Moore, he was our backup.
He won.
Didn't do it.
He made a couple of good throws to Tyreek.
Yeah, he won like 2 games as a Chief, as a career backup. Somebody who's garbage.
I was about to say, like, who the hell is that? And I was like, that's probably the point of why he's saying that. I'm not gonna know. I'm not gonna remember who Mac Jones is in like 10 years.
I don't think anybody will. No. Well, boys, if there's nothing else, thank you for listening, everyone. Make sure to come back. We are dropping our pregame shows. This will come out. We're recording Tuesday. It'll be to you tonight/Wednesday. We'll be recording again tomorrow for our Chiefs coverage and our NFL coverage to go out before Thursday's game. A little bit of change up than usual. It usually comes out Thursday night and all of Friday. So make sure to tune back in early enough to get a listen to the Chiefs pregame show and stick around for all of our NFL content that'll follow with our pick'ems and our games of the week. And as always, go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.